A second credit score based on the blockchain, looking nothing like FICO, but it's permanent, unappealable. Chris Smithmyer. And Chris, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Chris, very unique situation that's being thrown out there. A second credit score. What's the reality of this? I want to talk in normal language, not get in the weeds too much of what blockchain is, although we probably have to unpack this. But
Okay.
what would this credit score, credit's the wrong, maybe credit's not the right word, but what's a score look like based on the blockchain, your interactions, your wallet, that type of thing?
Well, one of the things about blockchain that a lot of people don't realize is that it's immutable. Once you write to the blockchain, it can't really be changed. Now, you can change a future block or something like that, but realistically, once it's there, which means that social scores like this are a little bit challenging. Now, I'm not going to say that they're irresponsible, but if you think about the media, think about the news stories you've seen over the last 2 or 3 years about banks sending money to the wrong place, banks losing people's information, and banks sending money to people and then suing them to get it back. Do you want those institutions putting information out there that's going to affect your ability to buy a car, to buy a house, to send your kids to college? Without some way of auditing it and making sure that it's correct. Because right now we have our FICO credit scores. You got Experian, TransUnion, whatever the other one is,
Equifax.
and Equifax, and they come out and they give you a little 3-digit number that dictates your life from the time you're 16 years old till you die. I mean, it has more effect on your life than your social security number. And now we're talking about giving a non-government entity, which staying away from the government's always better, but the ability to put something permanently online that changes things. This is remember the threat when you were in school, "We're gonna put it on your permanent record." There are people that have got together and built that misguided concept of a permanent record to permanently put you in your place. So, it's one of those things where if it's done right, it could be amazing and protect a lot of people. But if it's done at the rapid, fast shooter pace that we've seen over the last 3 presidential administrations, this is very dangerous, and it could put people under the gun that really all they're trying to do is just get through their lives and do their work.
So what the people who are saying, the proponents of this score for the blockchain is, what have you done? What have you been forced to sell? And it's tied to a wallet, your particular wallet, right?
Yeah.
Am I understanding this correctly?
That is correct, and it brings in what's called KYC, and this is something I'm a big fan of. Like, there are a lot of crypto bros out there that hate KYC, that they think everything should be anonymous, that it's a Fourth Amendment violation for the government to keep any records on us. Um, it's one of those things that it's kind of needed. It's just like I'm a big fan of firearms. I like firearms, but we also have to have some regulations because the guy that just got out of prison last week shouldn't be going to the gun store. And with this is the guy that declared bankruptcy last week shouldn't be going out and taking out $100,000 loan. And
And let's define KYC, just so we're
okay,
all.
it's know your client or know your customer, depending on how it's being used. And what it is it's a background check. Like a blockchain company or the government goes in and says, "Hey, this person is a criminal or this person is not a criminal." And they turn that over to the company, and the company says, "Well, I can work with them because they're not a criminal," or "I can't work with you because you are a criminal." And we want to make sure that we have that in the field because companies like ours need to know who we're doing business with. Because when you're moving large amounts of digital assets, those have equivalents of value with fiat currency like the US dollar. And just like you wouldn't want $100 million to go to Iran, we saw how bad that went about 8.5 years ago. You don't want that much digital currency to go there either, because while we can check digital currency and track it much more effectively than we can with fiat currency, it's still something that is easily liquidable. That's a really weird word, but it's easily turned into a liquid state so that it can be spent. And by knowing who you're dealing with and who you're dealing with on the other side of you, that enables us to make good choices on whether we should do this. And this is one of the things that suggests whether it maybe shouldn't be a credit score, but maybe it should be like a reputation of whether you are a criminal or not.
So this is tied to a wallet, right?
Yes.
Everything is tied to a wallet. Now, what's stopping someone from getting another wallet or creating a new wallet? Is there anything like that? Like with credit scoring, you got the social security number, right? Like you couldn't just go out unless you were fraudulently applying for credit with another credit social security number. How's that work with blockchain?
Well, with blockchain, you're going to have multiple wallets because there are multiple chains. Each chain is attached to a wallet. Without getting too much into the technical weeds, there's basically three major kinds of wallets, then a couple minor ones. You hear about Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. Those are the big ones. And then you have other ones like Constellation has a very active Stardust wallet and a couple other chains that have their own wallets. So you might need one for each of those. For new people, the easiest way to do it is to go get a Coinbase wallet and store your coins there, which I don't recommend. You should never keep them on an exchange. You should keep them in your wallet or get a MetaMask wallet, which is under your control because you have the keys. And a person can go out and get a new wallet. There's nothing stopping a person. This is where KYC is so important because that wallet should also be KYC'd. Because if you have let's say you have an Ethereum wallet, there is nothing stopping you from selling me that wallet. It's very hard to hack somebody's wallet, so that's very unlikely, but people sell wallets all the time. So this is why there needs to be ongoing AML to
So
just
so
meet with international requirements.
so let me just really dumb this down. Forgive me for
Yep, that works.
if I have a wallet and I sell it to you, right?
Mhm.
How would that KYC know your client? How would that be still attached to me if I sold it to you? Wouldn't my lack of repayment or my improper use be given to you with that selling of the wallet?
If you have that in your wallet, well, the wallet won't actually represent you don't pay things. Like until they get this, if they set this credit score up, it could show that. And your records would go along with it, but they're not buying bad wallets right now. They're buying good wallets. So
Who's they? Who's they?
the people that are doing illicit activities with them, because obviously if you weren't doing an illicit activity, you would be using your own wallet. What you're seeing a lot is people having their wives or setting up wallets in their children's name and then doing the illicit activities. I mean, these are really bad people. They don't care about their families, obviously, because this comes back on them. And this creates a system where KYC doesn't have to be a static event. You just do it one time. This comes up where something where the KYC company should be checking and making sure that it's being used by the same person. Now, your wallet cannot be traced to where it's being accessed from, but the internet terminal that you're using, whether you're using a cell phone, whether you're using a computer, whether you're using a library computer, that can be tracked. And that can be used to make sure that, hey, well, if you live in New York City, all of a sudden Taiwan starts seeing a lot of transactions out of your wallet. You say, this might be a little weird.
Yeah.
And that gives the KYC something to look into and maybe contact you. There are companies out there that do look at wallet activity and will tell you if it looks like your wallet's being used somewhere else. As I said, to my knowledge, there haven't ever been a non-social engineering hack of a digital asset wallet. Social engineering is where you get the African prince schemes where they come online and they tell you that there's somebody that should have your information and they really shouldn't.
Right, right.
And that's the only way that a digital wallet has been hacked, to my knowledge, so far, is wherever somebody just gave over their seed phrase, which is something for those of you that are thinking about getting wallets, you'll get 12 or 24 words, and you should never show them to anybody but your estate lawyer, because your estate lawyer should have them just in case you pass away so that they can transfer your money to your kids
Got it.
or your heirs, whoever you're sending your money to.
So, I mean, it just feeds into, like you just mentioning, well, selling the wallets or using it for illicit activity. It feeds the narrative that like crypto and this whole blockchain world. I mean, clearly it's much more mainstream than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? But it does feed the narrative of like, you can do a lot of things behind the scenes that aren't above board to try to get away with something. I mean, do you agree with that?
It feeds the narrative, but not the reality.
Okay, so what is that
Because
reality? Like, how would this reputation score, as you're calling it, how would this be used? That's in that competes with a credit score, or even better than a credit score. I mean, obviously, you're looking at your on-chain activity, right? I mean, your late repayments, liquidations, interacting with risky or scam-prone, sellers. I mean, help me unpack this.
Okay. So the reason it's the narrative because the media loves to sell fear. I mean, if you go turn on Fox, CNN, MSNBC, like it's all fear based. And then you've got real journalists like you that are out there trying to promote actual information, which there's kind of a rub with. So the narrative is that that cryptocurrency makes it easier to track. That's not exactly that makes it harder to track. I apologize. It does make it easier to track because the blockchain is immutable and transparent. That means that if you have a cryptocurrency wallet, I can go check your wallet address and see every transaction you've made out of that wallet
So
if
any
I know how to do it,
if you have
which
the address, anyone can see what it is. Anyone can see
yes,
the
they can
activity,
see what
fully public.
they can see the activity. Yep, and they can't see your name though. Like, so unless I know that it's your address, I can't see your name. But if I'm a police officer and I've got calls from police departments before asking how to do this, I can go look at where the transactions went and where they came from to that wallet. So it makes it easier to track criminals. It's a very, very good thing. Unless you know what somebody's private wallet address is, you really can't attach it to a person. So it keeps your privacy, but it also has that traceability that international finance law requires.
Mhm.
The reason that we see people selling wallets now isn't because it's such an easy thing to do. It's actually a real pain in the butt to transfer a wallet to somebody else and trust them because if if I buy your wallet off of you, how do I know you didn't keep your seed phrase? So I'd load $20 million of illegal money into that wallet and then you'd withdraw it because you kept your seed phrase and can still access it.
Right.
So it's a very dangerous game. We're forcing them out of where we started with just making a new wallet and having a clean wallet to having to force them to go into these riskier activities if they're doing illicit activities. So
Right.
the narrative that it's so easy to do, it's not. It's
Okay.
we're forcing them more and more into a corner. And this is what the government needs to do. This is actually something where I really support the government and what they're doing with a social credit score or with a social reputation score. There is the dream. We've got the utopian dream up here of, hey, it's going to let people get easier access to housing money and easier rental on a car. You don't have to wait. You don't have to take these credit hits that are basically with FICO. I mean, if you do good credit activities like pay off your credit card completely or pay off a school loan or something, you actually get penalized for that. You don't get bonus points. If we do this right, that could be wonderful. The problem is we're going to introduce humans into it, and the human element can really make things kind of messy, as we've seen with China, where people are getting social credit scores. And if your social credit score isn't high enough, you don't have access to entertainment. If it's even lower, you don't have access to transportation. And when the government can start saying you don't get food or you don't get transportation or you can't work, that becomes very dystopian. And we have to be careful because we're going to end up somewhere in the middle between ultra bad and ultra good. It's just, are we ready to get closer to the ultra good than the ultra bad? And I don't think we're there yet as a technologically advanced species or as a society in general, because right now we're still watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and stuff like that. And society just wants to have their nose in everybody's business. And that's kind of too far for me. So
So I think, Chris, what I'm hearing you say and what I'm understanding, this isn't really a credit score on the person. It's a reputation score based on an individual wallet address that can or cannot be tied to the person. Might is that what you're talking about?
yes,
Okay.
that
So
is correct.
okay. So that now that would be the value of that is if you had a all this blockchain activity, you're doing it the right way. You have a reputation score based on that wallet, and you would make it would open up certain types of lendings as opposed to just leverage or not. You could buy homes with it, buy cars with it, et cetera, et cetera. If we went down that far way,
Yeah.
if we went down that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be how it would probably work. So the only way that this would be functional would be if there was an issued wallet that's issued to each person. Now we've seen this they tried it in El Salvador where the government issued everybody a wallet. You'd go to your library because a lot of people don't have cell phones down there, and you could log into your wallet and see the fractional amount of Bitcoin that they gave you.
Okay.
if that wallet was linked to you kind of like a social security card, so you couldn't sell it. Like if you sold it, it'd be like you going out in the street and be like, "Hey, I'll sell you a clean social security card because I
Yeah. Right.
probably meth or something." I don't know what else reason you would sell it for. But if we get it to that point where it's linked to the person, then this system works. Otherwise, we have like the 1980s movie where people are buying other people's reputations and living like you're basically buying the other person's life.
Yeah.
And as we become more digital, and a lot of these social credit score activities that I've seen aren't just linked to your cryptocurrency activity. If they were, that would just be like how risky you are with your bank account information.
Yeah.
But they're linking people's social media, they're linking people's education, they're linking people's job history to this social score. And in the event someone takes that, you've got your net scenario with Sandra Bullock, where somebody just comes and takes your information and leaves with it. And it's not, nobody cares about the $500 in cryptocurrency you have in your wallet at that time. They care about it whenever they show up for work the next day and they say, well, this person has the ID that says that they are Philip Tryon, and they won't let you in the building. And that's the scary part of it because eventually everything gets hacked. That's a rule of computing. Like eventually everything is going to get hacked. The blockchain to this point has not been, but it's all ones and zeros. And eventually a computer, you put enough monkeys and enough typewriters, they'll write Shakespeare. If you put enough computers in a room, they're eventually going to crack information.
Yeah.
So we need to have it protected because with the extra level of something like biometrics, something like, as much as I hate dual factor, dual factor, because what this does is it gives you your public address, which is your wallet address. That's what everybody talks about is your wallet address. Then you have your private key, which is your password, which is 24, 36, 48 letters, however many it is for the particular blockchain. Then you have a PIN, and then you have a biometrics. That makes it almost impossible to hack, almost. And we need that. We need people protected because there's a lot of people that go out there and this is a scam I saw. One of my friends called me and said, "Hey, I got a message from my wallet provider and they said they needed me to enter my seed phrase to see what's going on."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Well, what does see what's going on mean? And who is your wallet provider? Because I know half of the wallet providers and they're not going to call you and say that." And so he had the guy on the other line, and the other he's like, "Well, so what is going on?" You said, "See what's going on." "Oh, we think all the money's been taken out of your account." And I said, "Just go into your wallet and check it. Don't give him any information." And he went in and checked it, and the guy's like, "No, no, it's not really there." And I'm like, "Dude, you're getting scammed." I'm like, "Call the police and have them track that number." And they did. Of course, it was a VPN number, somebody using Google. Google telephones kinda are weird because people just get those numbers for half an hour, scam a whole bunch of people, and then leave with them, and that's something where we do need KYC to get a phone number so we don't get these telemarketer calls at all hours of the night.
I mean,
But
Chris, people can't even keep track of their own social security numbers. They, I'm thinking about this. I mean, think about, in practicality, right? Everyone's given the social security card when they get their social security number when they're a kid. Their parents keep it, they give it to them. The kids lose it. They don't remember it. I mean, like the simplicity of a social security number. And when you're talking about a 24 character phrase, I mean, this is like the practicality of this happening in the marketplace. It like not a, I mean, like not for a while. I mean, you agree with that? I mean, it just
yeah.
seems massively complex. Am I missing something
How
here?
long is your bank account number?
9 digits?
It's 19 because
Oh,
you have your routing number and then you have the actual account number. So you
okay.
have the
Yeah.
number
So
for
the
your bank and
routing
then
and the account number.
where it
So
lines
it's
up.
routing and the account number, 19.
Yeah,
Okay.
19. Yeah. So we jump up to 21 or 24. It's not that big of a jump from that. The average human being can memorize 7 to 10 numbers. Like that's the reason how they picked the social security number. That's why our phone numbers are set up that way. Most of the time, people don't remember that anymore. Like, how many phone numbers do you have memorized right now?
Very few.
Like for family and
Nowadays,
friends? Yeah,
yeah.
you trust a device.
Yeah.
Yeah, you trust a device. That's the same thing with cryptocurrency. I wish I was cool and remembered to bring my ledger with me. This is actually an MP4 player, not a ledger, but it looks like one. So I'm just holding it up as an example. There's a device, has a little thumb scanner on it. You can biometrically log in. You can type your PIN number in. And what it does is it's a password protector. And you plug it into the computer. And if you lose it, like I lose this out on the street, unless somebody cuts my thumbs off, which by the way, mine doesn't have a thumbproof thing. So if you're ever going to rob me, don't cut my thumbs off because I don't have a thumbprint scanner and knows what my PIN number is. They can't break into it if I lose this on the street. So if I drop this walking through town tomorrow, no big deal. I just go buy another one. I enter my seed phrase into it, and voila, it has the exact same protections as the last one I had. So you said about people losing their social security numbers. These type of devices have already dealt with that problem. Instead of having to memorize 24 digits, you have to memorize a 4 to 5 number PIN that you create. And then what this thing does is it stores your passwords for you, just like your passwords are stored on your email. Or I'm guessing most people, whenever they go into their phones, they don't have to type their bank password in. It just automatically populates by Google Password Manager. You can do that. The less you do that, the more secure your system is. But if you want convenience, and if I have a ledger that I only keep a couple $100 on, yeah, I have as much convenience as possible because that's a transactional ledger. I actually have it hooked up to my phone so I can pay with my phone. Now, the accounts that I have big amounts of coin in have multi-signature wallets with multi-validation on them to ensure that it is me trying to log in and move my company's money. And it all comes down to how much convenience you want. And we can make crypto as convenient as a cell phone for you, or we can make it as complex as trying to do an international money wire across 3 different banks with 2 intermediaries. We can make it incredibly complex, but it's how much security you want. And that's how social credit scores need to be. We need everybody with a device like this, and not an MP3 player, once again, the ledger, not the MP3 player, but we need it in their hands because this gives parents the ability to transfer money to their kids that they can then put on their cell phone. It gives adult children the ability to put some money in their family's bank accounts. And that way they don't have to worry if a relative with dementia can't figure out how to work this. They can set up automatic payments to make sure that they're taken care of, even if something would happen to the adult child.
Right.
So the system is in place. There are some very, very brilliant people that have made a lot of systems that on which we build our corporate system. But a lot of people are out there asking the exact same questions as you are. And they're out there saying, how can regular people use this and effectively integrate it into their lives? And
Well, people are saying
the
the
answers
same
to
thing about the
those, a lot
internet
of
20
people
years
will
ago,
shock you
right?
because it's a lot easier.
Yeah, they were saying the
Yeah.
same thing about the internet
How
20
am I,
years ago. So Chris,
how
the,
does the internet know to come to my computer? Like I remember that old the first email interview on Good Morning America.
Right.
How does the computer know to send my mail to me? Is there a little guy that goes around delivering every single email to make sure it goes to the right address? And it's like, no, no, somebody much, much smarter than the talking heads on CBS in the morning figured this stuff out. And it built the society that we live on today. And now we're building the society for the next generation. And we're hoping that that society doesn't come with the debt that the generations before us have built into our countries around the world. The world is approximately what, $800 trillion in debt to who? Who do we owe the money to? Like there's people, and then maybe there's aliens out there. We might owe the aliens a bunch of money. I don't know. But realistically, we've created the system of debt where your life is managed by that number in your bank account. We're looking to give you the ability to manage that number. And the social credit score is kind of a step away from that. It's kind of giving somebody else control over your life.
so Chris, remember when a year or two ago that guy was kidnapped in New York and held for his wallet? Remember that? It was all over the news.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
then something happened and he got out and he ran out in his bathrobe and he stopped the cop and said, "Look, I've been kidnapped 2 days ago." Because of the value of what his coin ended up being, he, you know, as the prices went up, they became more and more valuable. And he was the only one that had the phrase or the key or whatever to open up
Yeah.
that wallet. And he wouldn't give in, and ultimately he got out. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So this social score in some ways, I mean, obviously it depends on how much coin is in a wallet, but at some point the coin could be, or the score could be more powerful than the wallet, or than what's in the wallet,
Yes.
right? So and that's what I mean, that's why you're not a fan of this whole thing, right? Because ultimately, I mean, it's too much power in the hand of the wallet to create a score like this. Is that right?
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that. We all saw what happened to Mr. Reiner. He passed away last night due to bad circumstances, and we also saw the message that the president sent out, which I don't like the way that he sent that message out. What if there was a government that issued you your social credit score and you spoke out? Now, I'm not using Rob Reiner as a paragon of anything. I mean, I'm not a big fan of his. But what if the government just decided, well, we don't like what you said on social media. We're going to dock your credit score 800 points. Guess what? You can't use the turnpike anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
These are the questions we have to deal with before we can move forward with it. I'm not saying that we can't ever get to a social credit score. Eventually, there should be a thing where you can walk down the street and kids can have glasses on that have augmented reality that they can say, okay, that person's a safe person to go to. They see a police officer. That's a safe person. You're lost. Go to that person. It also pops up where if it's a person that they don't want to go to, somebody that's convicted of a sex crime or something, they turn red and it tells the kid, don't go to that person. And that type of thing is something that can help the world immensely, but we're not there yet. We're still fighting battles that were started in Rome about government versus individual rights. And until we have an active discussion, not a popularity contest we have every 4 years where we elect the dumbest Americans into office, we have to make sure that we're actually moving society forward, not backward. And that's what we're running into problems with, right? Because right now, there's probably half the Congress people in the world that are people that we want in there. Like my congressman, John Joyce, great congressman, always takes calls whenever you call him, like does what we expect a congressperson to do. But then every night you turn the TV on, there are third graders laughing at a congressman because they said that the reason we have eclipses is because the sun vaporizes the moon every time it passes in front of it, or the Guam is going to flip over if we put too many people on it, or that the reasons potholes are made because gophers really like asphalt. And these are all things that our Congress people have said publicly in speeches. You can look them up.
Yeah.
And these are the people that are trying to determine what should your credit score be.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
and that's a question we have here.
what comes to mind is the fact that, you know, this reputation score, the social score is so permanent. I don't know many people who'd want to be judged for every decision they made in their life, right? I mean, like it's something that tracks permanency. And the reason why I say that is, I mean, frankly, practically, I mean, you probably wouldn't, I wouldn't want to. I made dumb decisions. I mean, years ago. And the nice thing about the credit score is
Yeah.
there is a reset, right? I mean, there is a reset. There's an
Yeah.
appeal process. There is a way to do it. I'm not saying it's going to be around forever. I'm saying for right now, it's matriculated into something that can be fair. Don't get me wrong. It's manipulated. It's a lot wrong in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of things I don't like about it, but there's black and white easy things you can do to move it one way or the other, and you're not judged for something that happened. I mean, part of the American dynamic and our entrepreneurship goes back to the fact that we can like start a company, try something, and then shut it down if we need to. Like the bankruptcy laws are there for a reason. And but it's not with you forever, right? It's with you for a time being, and then you can
I,
rebuild accordingly. What's your take on that?
I completely agree with you on that. I just to put in, you said about saying dumb things in the past. So I have a niece that's in the 6-7 generation where they're saying 6-7 for everything. Nobody knows what the heck it means, and it's just one of those weird things. And I was talking to somebody, and they're like, "This generation's so weird. They say these meaningless terms," and I'm like, "You're about the same age as I am, so you remember back in the '90s saying stuff like cowabunga and radical because the Ninja Turtles were popular.
I know.
And it's like, is that like, I mean, there is I teach my students, I'm like, whatever's on the internet's there forever. Like, don't do something stupid. Don't become an OnlyFans person. Like, that's gonna be there forever. And how exactly do you explain that whenever one of your kids' friends finds it in 20 years? And this social score is going to make everything because right now, if you were a criminal, I could find out that you're a criminal by going to the courthouse. I could go to the courthouse and look up your records and backtrack you. I could even go online and do it, but most people are too lazy to do that. If you decided to run for city council and you have a DUI, which I'm one of the most anti DUI people in the world, anybody would be able to find that on your social score very easily. And then they could demonstrate it immutably. Now, the only problem with that is you could have that DUI on your thing because a Philip Tryon had a DUI back in 1967. I'm guessing 10, 15 years, 20 years before you were born.
Yeah.
And if it's on the blockchain, if they put it in your social account that it's permanent,
Yeah.
there's no change to that. They can't fix that. If there are 3 Christopher Smithmyers in the world. One of them's like a 3-year-old, so I don't think he's gonna do anything too crazy. But if the other one did something that looked bad and somebody put it in my account rather than his account,
Yeah.
it's
Not
immutable.
good. Not good.
And this is one of the things we're talking about with moving from Web 3 to Web 4 is getting the ability to fix some of the blocks when there was a mistake. Because remember about 3 years ago, the Pope in the puffy jacket, they made it with the AI picture with the Pope. He was wearing like a North Face jacket.
Oh, wait, I do.
It's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
If you went and put that on the blockchain when it came out, it would be Pope Francis wearing puffy jacket, completely disrespecting papacy, like whatever headlines the Italian
Mm.
media were running about being so worried about a guy in a puffy jacket. That would go on the blockchain and that would be there forever. Now, there could be other documents that say it's wrong, but it's kind of like dealing with the New York Times. The New York Times can go out and print that you ate 600 pieces of pizza one night and make you look like a total ass, and then turn around and then on page 28B in a block about the size of a Cheez It, put, oh, we're going to retract that. And he didn't actually eat 600 pieces of pizza. We mistyped it. He ate 6 pieces of pizza.
Yeah.
And the New York Times can retract it, but nobody ever goes and looks at the retractions. It's the same thing with changing in the blockchain. Everybody looks at the original hash. They don't look at the cross hashes back to it to change things. What was the name of the case that overturned Roe versus Wade? Like, can you off the top of your head name that case? And I follow law because that's my career, and it doesn't resonate with me. Or what was the case that redefined Howie in the SEC? Nobody ever looks at the second place finisher. They always look at the first place finisher. And whenever they put that big story out, that's what's going to go on the blockchain. And that becomes you. Whether it's really you or not, that's what every computer in the world believes is you. And that's why it's so scary because the computer doesn't care. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your family. It doesn't care about your life. You are data. I am data. Everybody in the world is data. And once it makes that data immutable, it becomes an independent variable. It becomes a statement of fact in the mind of the computer. And whether you're the guy that got the DUI or whether it was somebody 30 years before you lived, if the computer believes it, that means whenever a computer references you and asks whether I should give Philip a loan or whether I should let him buy a car or whether he should be allowed to use his card to buy food at the grocery store, the computer looks at what it believes, not what the reality is. And that's the divide between the digital universe and the current universe. And that's what we have to fix before this can ever happen.
Fortunately, it sounds like we're gonna be sticking with the archaic credit score system for a while before all this stuff is figured out. Right? Chris,
Yeah.
thank you for your time. This has
But
been very insightful.